We are going to move from longevity to African design and architecture in wellness spaces. And that is what you're going to be looking at. Africa has always built with soul. Our architecture is not just structure, it is story, it is memory, it is medicine. In African design, the space breathes, materials speak, and every curve, courtyard, and circle honors community spirit and the elements. As the global wellness industry searches for authenticity, sustainability, and deeper human connection, Africa is not just participating, we are leading. This session will explore how Africa design principles rooted in nature, rhythm, ritual, and ancestral intelligence are reshaping wellness spaces around the world, from earthen textures and sacred geometry to communal flow and biophilic harmony. We'll step into the living architecture of healing. Because in Africa, we do not just design buildings, we design belongings. I'm going to take this moment to invite the most beautiful soul I've ever come across, purest of life, Susanne Finch. Please, you'll be the moderator of this session. I have had the honor, our paths have crossed in so many ways, and it is indeed beautiful to see you here and introduce the rest of the Psalmist panelists to you. I'm actually losing my words here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Josephine. Indeed, our paths have crossed in many meaningful ways. And I'm extremely honored. I would actually like to open this segment to express my personal sincere gratitude, not only to the Global Wellness Institute, but of course to the Africa Wellness Initiative for putting on such a meaningful paradigm and narrative shifting event today, and for allowing me to contribute in facilitating this panel of amazing people. While preparing for this panel, I had actually reached out to our participants to double check if I may facilitate the introduction, because the work that these amazing people are doing is so many layered that we tried to condense it. But of course, I will enable them to add to their personal narrative. So, like you already introduced us, we often think of wellness design and architecture through the lens of the global spa design, which we know a lot of times as minimalism, Zen, Scandinavian simplicity. But of course, Africa has its own profound traditions, its own aesthetics and architectural wisdom that can inspire wellness spaces worldwide. So today in our panel, we will explore how healing art and architecture come together in African design. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the first two of our panelists. I will start with Teereraishe, who's also allowed me to refer to him as Terry. He is a Zimbabwean artist and industrial designer, and his education, studies, and industry exposure has grown into artistic journey embodied through chituro, which is an expressive artisanal furniture concept that combines modern approaches and cultural storytelling, drawing from the essence of indigenous African crafts. And this expands beyond the Shona word chituro, which of course Terry will elaborate on later, um, which is the meaning for stool, to a culturally expressive outlet described by the Shona word kutura, meaning to unburden and express. So, of course, his many studies and his master's in science and sustainability and technologies and livelihood has grounded his work in this indigenous traditional heritage and the culture's realities that he continues to explore the harmony, autonomy, and the community. And then, of course, we have Stuart Culverwell from DuPont International Developments, where he is the director. And he has led innovative projects in the bespoke wellness sector with a particular focus on integrating African culture and natural elements into the architectural design. And he's currently spearheading wellness projects across Europe, Africa, and the US, and each designed to harmonize with luxury, with indigenous traditions and sustainable practices. I believe he does that by collaborating with local artisans, healers, and architects. And Stuart believes that when architecture is crafted with reverence for nature, culture, and belief, it becomes a tool for renewal, restoring pride, optimism, and sustainability for generations to come. And just a quick question to you, Josephine or Michelle, is Samaita able to join us or not yet?
Samaita, we're still looking for him. In case Samaita, you're here, please turn on your camera so that we can spotlight you. In the meantime, Susanne, feel free to go on with Stuart and Teereraishe, and then we shall catch up with you later.
Yes. So first of all, of course, I would like to ask our amazing panelists if they would like to add to their introduction. So we'll start with Stuart. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself and the work that you do?
Good afternoon, Susanne and Josephine. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's a blessing being invited to this wonderful initiative. Thank you so much. No, I think, Susanne, I think you encapsulated everything we do quite well. And I think we endeavor to create fantastic wellness spaces within the culture of the African continent. But thank you.
Thank you. Terry, is there anything that you would like to add to go deeper on the work that you do in the first introduction?
Thank you, Susanne. Am I clearly audible?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Maybe just a little bit. I'm currently in the technology transfer or innovation ecosystem, which adds to the discussion we're having. I'm working with the Innovation Hub at the University of Chinoy as a research and innovation lead officer, assistant research and innovation lead officer for creative industries and arts. So it's I'm grateful when a number of discussions align like this. Thank you.
Fantastic. So actually, my first question will be for you. When we think about aesthetics in storytelling through art, I would like to hear your opinion because art is often a carrier of culture, memory, and symbolism. So how can African artistic traditions that use motifs, patterns, materials as forms of communication and connection transform wellness spaces beyond decoration into something that carries meaning and healing?
Thank you for the question, Susan. This discussion we're having in connection with wellness is one that really values how things are interconnected, the multidimensionality of life, and in wellness we are appreciating the unseen aspects of life. We are appreciating how energy moves, and for us to be able to align and sort of unlock the value of those symbols, motifs, and the material culture, I think we have to intentionally reconnect with the stories behind, so that we can access the meanings and, in a sense, align with the energy that the values carry. So I think reconnecting with the stories and seeking understanding is very key, and that leads to because these meanings are lived and they are in communities, they are within people. Indigenous knowledge systems is embodied in ways of living. So that would mean which have our community elders, which have our cultural practitioners, like the sangomas that we had on our panel discussions yesterday. And these people are masters of integration of which that is basically what we are trying to do to unlock this value. So to reconnect with them and to co-create with them. And to top it off with something that I've learned from yesterday's discussions, we also need to acknowledge and be in a reciprocal relationship with them. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's beautiful because we can clearly see that everything is interconnected, not just in the wellness space, but also how it interacts with different topics such as training and development or architecture and design. So to follow up on the question, so based on your experience, would you say that there are particular artistic expressions that may invite calm, reflection, or collective healing from what you've seen and the work that you've done?
Thank you for the question, Susan. Personally, well, it started from just a visual impression. I've been drawn to the chevron, which appears a lot in Zimbabwean cultural art. Initially, it just put me on a curious journey to learn more, and I've found how it relates to the feminine from other researchers, if I can say, and I'm still learning more about it. There are other angles of it that speak of leadership roles and balance in community, and that speaks to the diversity in the way we culturally express ourselves. So it has also made me aware that it could be just a motif or a pattern, but it can potentially mean different things to different people as well. So that is one that I've encountered with and had a chance to experiment with as well. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love your acknowledgement of the continuous student because I think it's really important in all of our work that we do is that every single time we come across something new, there's more research coming up and we all tend to go deeper every single time we see something. So moving on to Stuart, architecture as a vessel of wellness. So Stuart, you are a very strong advocate for blending indigenous knowledge with modern innovation. So in your practice, how do you ensure that traditional design elements or healing symbols or natural materials are not just aesthetic gestures, but integral parts of a living wellness system?
Well, I think continuing on what Teereraishe said, I think to avoid tokenism of traditional elements, one must begin with meaning, not form. Traditional African symbols, materials, and spaces have always carried a layer of layered functions. When we encapsulate spirituality, social, ecological, we must embed them as a process and not decorations. So I think we must encapsulate all those elements. For instance, using earth or rammed earth walls is not just about texture, it's about thermoregulation, grounding, and the connection to the ancestral soils. So we use the colors, absorb the soils, and get the absolute essence of the continent itself within the structure. So healing symbols of spatial orientations should emerge from a community consultation, as Teereraishe rightly said. We must obviously listen. I think we must take time to listen. I think one of our famous novelists referred to time as a respect for your fellow human being. Take the time to listen, take the time to understanding and the depth of what their culture entails, and try and absorb that within the structure. So what we normally do is on consult, to really encapsulate their meanings. So they're integrated with intention and meaning. A living wellness system is a dynamic. It responds to time and rituals and seasons. So therefore, I think we must allow for adaptability. Sorry, I've had too much coffee this afternoon. Allow for adaptability, repetition, and cultural practices with both organic growth rather than freezing tradition in static, exotic forms. So I think it's about encapsulation, listening, and in consult with the locals to absorb the culture, not only from a generic form, but I think as a continent as a whole, and not very, very much taking the standpoint of individualistic cultures. So that's how we sort of put it into practice.
I think it's incredibly fascinating because when I think about, there shines a lot of complexity through, just because of the respect for all of the interconnected stakeholders, but also the history and the tradition itself. So if
Exactly.
you don't mind me to follow up on that question, African design has always been social. So examples are, I learned this through my own research and preparing for this panel. So I'm also a student of this topic. So the kraal, or the courtyard, the marketplaces, these are all spaces of interaction and belonging. So how can wellness design today support community health and social cohesion, not just in individual luxury or a retreat? What would you say?
Well, I think true wellness in African philosophy is about communal, not individualistic. You know, the word Ubuntu teaches that I am because we are. It's the African continent as a whole, not divides that were created through generations of divisiveness. So we must all be seen as one. We all live the earth. We all feel the sun, the warmth of the sun on our faces. We walk the earth. We walk the continent in its richness of culture. So wellness design, I think, must focus on shared rituals and care, spaces for storytelling, open courtyards for gatherings, communal gardens for food and medicine. When I say food and medicines, within the gardens, so you can actually hear the smell, walk through, smell the lavender. So don't have a divisive space between the structure and the gardens. Your walkway through is encapsulation of what you experience outside. So we're trying to encapsulate what the African continent offers, by transparency, not rigidity. So we bring the openness in with a bit of biophilia and encapsulation of the natural environment, which is always calming. It reduces your heart rate. There's been scientific proof of that. So, gardens for food and medicine and shaded areas for elders and youth to meet, like fire pits, sit down, tell stories of ritual, create a pathway, to the richness of the continent and the people, they're full of laughter and color. I think we must encapsulate that within the structures. We try our best as possible to listen and integrate. Wellness becomes a collective rhythm, I think, not a consumer product. Instead of gated retreats, we can reimagine sanctuaries. Design must dismantle isolation and build intentional encounters. I think that's the way I encapsulate your question. Hopefully I got it down, Pat.
No, I think it was beautiful. I'm learning a lot as well. Terry, would you like to add anything to this, knowing that you are actually also excuse me if I mispronounce it, a Misa, which is the Shona word for actually much more than a designer. You're actually also a cultural and heritage caretaker in the work that you do. Would you like to share a little bit more about this?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Susan. Well, the way I use that title interchangeably with industrial designer is I use it as an aspiration. It's something that I aspire to, such that I'm aware that I am on a learning journey to integrate what I've learned in industrial design and what I continue to learn culturally. And so the little knowledge I've acquired so far gives me a hint that there is more to learn, and hopefully that journey gets me to make close contact with the artisans, close contact with the cultural keepers and the craft communities, so that I can continue to get an aspiration. Actually, thank you.
Thank you so much. If you would imagine the ideal African inspired or African wellness space, what elements must it include? So maybe we'll start with Stuart. If you could name 3 elements for you.
Well, I definitely think as part of the African continent, the 3 elements that we're always trying to capture is fire, sun, and the smells and the senses to evoke an emotion when you walk into a building. I think we must treat architecture as a ceremony, so not just a construction. Every build should be holding a memory. It should be rituals dictate orientation, flow, entry, pause. So we design the thresholds using circles of fire, water, and sound. The traditional sound of the African sound. There's always the drum beat, which is the heartbeat of Africa. We're trying to encapsulate that, not with huge decibel levels, but on a 432 hertz sort of level. So it's a calming essence. So as you walk through and transition between the structure for your relevant treatments, you have a calming effect. It reduces your heart rate. It calms you down. So you're more receptive to any treatment that you might receive within the structure. It's also storytelling, very much part of the emotions that you evoke within that structure. It becomes spatial when we carve out methodologies between languages, murals, textures, and oral maps embedded in the walls. So, we also create spaces that invite participation, not just observation, such as I mentioned earlier, the fire pits, verandas, or quiet corners for reflection. Community must be both client and co-creator, as oral histories and dreams and generational wisdom shape the blueprint. Design becomes the actor of the unseen, the spirit, the time, and the ancestry. Sorry, I expanded on your question, so I do apologize.
No, not at all. It's beautiful. I could listen myself for for a long time. Terry, would you like to add your 3 elements to the mix as well, please?